sounds weird, but if you think in terms of these new charging pads I got for cell phones, you just drop your phone on the
Yeah.
pad and it charges it. The way they work is the pad emits a frequency, specific frequency. The phone has the batteries are tuned to that exact same frequency.
Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the Ignition Path podcast, where we bring you alternative things about entrepreneurship and alternative things when it comes to mental health and physical health. Right now, today, we've got Justin Brost. Is that how you say your name, Justin?
Yep,
So
that's it.
Justin Brost is shared with me on our initial call with a mutual friend some amazing thing that he's doing, and I want him to explain everything to you here. And Justin, go ahead and tell us about your background real quick, how it became an entrepreneurial path for you to be where you're at. So, like, what you did prior to doing what you're doing now.
Okay, so everybody assumes I had a job in science or medical, one of the two. I did commercial financing for 15 years before this. I'm,
So at least you understand the money part of it, right?
it's, it's a natural segue. And when I was independent, so I worked with a number of banks, lenders, mortgage companies, and I looked at it as a game. And when the game wasn't fun anymore, this thing popped up. And the long and the short of it is, it's a technology that was originally developed by Nikola Tesla in 1897. Back when Tesla did it, his bulb was about the size of a volleyball that you held onto, and it had bare copper wire coming off of it. It's high voltage. He had to build his own transformers, and there was no insulation that could hold up to that kind of a voltage. It just, dry out, flake away. And so we had to reinterpret it to today's technologies, today's materials, and so right off the bat, we were seeing amazing results with people. I mean, just
So real quick,
mind-boggling.
just to go back to the physical and the medical portion of it, because everybody knows if they've watched at least one of my podcasts that I'm come from the medical background. I'm a respiratory therapist. I'm an active paramedic, and so I have a pretty tight niche, and I've brought products to market that have saved lives. So, and we all know that we're electrical beings. Our heart beats because of electricity. Plain and simple. If I put patches on you and I see your heartbeat, that's an electrical representation of what your electrical system of your body is doing. So your product and your for lack of better terms, product is an electrical cellular device that generates or helps rebuild the cellular level. So speak a little bit about that, about the mechanical medical version of what it does, and I think that'll help people understand.
Okay, understand that this thing is pure physics and
Okay.
biophysics. It's how it works. A lot of people get lost in the science. So I've got a lot of people, when they ask me how it works, I tell them it's FM. Freaking magic. And a lot of people, believe it or not, they're going, "Oh, okay, cool."
Okay,
Yeah,
cool. I like magic. When things
yeah,
disappear, when my pain
yeah.
disappears, that's great.
And so what this is okay, we all know what a sound wave is, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay,
I
so
I have a partial career on sound waves because I'm a voiceover
good.
actor, right?
There you go. So from midpoint up is your amplitude.
Yep.
Okay. From peak to peak is the hertz. So you can, if you turn up the volume of your favorite song, all that happens, that amplitude gets higher. Everything else stays the same. Okay. Now, electromagnetic waveform is different because it goes on a spiral and it goes one direction. And so where you have sound deadening headphones, so that what they do is they cancel out the sound. There you go. And so what happens is you get one sound wave and you hit it with something that's 180 degrees opposed, and what it does is it cancels it out. Okay. Well, with an EM wave, when you use 180 degrees opposed, it doesn't cancel out. Okay. First law of thermodynamics say you can neither create or destroy energy. And all an EM wave is pure energy. All right. So with our unit, what we're doing is we're taking one side of an EM wave and running it through the bulb you hold on to. The other side comes through the glass foot plate where your feet are. And so they meet inside your body. Okay. Boom. Now, what happens when you create two opposing EM waves? It creates a scalar potential or scalar field. Now, you'll read a lot on the internet, especially after I put all this stuff up on our website. Within 2 weeks, we were getting mined. All these guys are putting up stuff about scalar. And you'll read about scalar waves. There's no such thing as a scalar wave. You read how scalar is the healing energy of the universe. Scalar doesn't heal anything. Okay.
Mm.
The only thing scalar is like a giant data field. It will pick up every signal of every particle within its domain. So what I hypothesized like 20 years ago was that when I first started reading about scalar was, wait a minute, you could take a laser, piggyback scalar on it, and use it for communications. So one of the things that happens is now recently they've actually run a radio transmission for a 10 million mile communication from a satellite to Earth. The time it took to get from 10 million miles to here was instantaneous. So scalar is not bound by the speed of light. It's instantaneous. And it will go to every particle within its domain. Now, particle in physics is an atom. Okay. So it goes to every atom within your entire body. Every atom, every different atom has a specific set of frequencies, depending on if it's a solid, a liquid, gas, or plasma. So what scalar does is it picks up all those frequencies. And in the average body, you got 10 to the 27th power number of atoms in your body. That's a lot of zeros. And so people kind of freak out at that point and they go, oh my God, how do you do that many different frequencies? There's only so many frequencies in the periodic table, or so many atoms in the periodic table. Okay. And when you look at the periodic table, it's like, okay, so you're hopefully not going to have a lot of those things in your body. Like you're not going to have uranium, your plutonium, you're not going to, there's a lot of things you hope aren't in your body.
Right.
So what we're doing is we're taking all those frequencies that are now in this gigantic data field, and the only way to move, or in physics they call pump scalar, is with plasma. Our bulb you hold on to is like a plasma bulb. And so what it's doing is it's pumping the signals into our unit where they're amplified and then pumping them back into your system. That's all we're doing. Now, it sounds weird, but if you think in terms of these new charging pads I got for cell phones, you just drop your phone on the pad
Yeah.
and it charges it. Okay.
Yep.
The way they work is the pad emits a frequency, specific frequency. The phone has the batteries are tuned to that exact same frequency.
To
All it's
receive that
doing,
frequency. Yeah.
that's all it's doing, is raising the amplitude of the battery, which in turn raises the energy level of the battery.
So like
So
when they talk about these the with that same concept of us dropping our phones on a pad, there actually is out there in the world, they're talking about this being like in airports. As you walk through airports, they have this magnetic energy that charges your phone automatically. So it's really no different than that, right?
yeah, except it's not magnetic. It's
Okay, okay.
Samsung. That's kind of the fallacy of it. Samsung's actually working on a deal where they will they have a charging device that you don't have to come in contact with. So
Right.
you have it in, if you got it in your house, it'll keep your phone charged. And what
Right.
it's doing is putting out this signal, this frequency that your phone's going to pick up. It's going to, well, any, wireless device. And now the one thing to understand is these frequencies with atoms, they go at 5 to 8 decimal places. Okay. There is no equipment manufactured today that can create a frequency specific enough to go out 5 to 8 decimal places. They're pretty much limited to 1 to 2 decimal places. That's it. So, and you've also got to look at the makeup of a cell. Okay, if you look at the cell wall, the makeup between the hydrophobic, hydrolytic parts of the cell is basically like a capacitor, technically, or an organic living battery. Okay. Now, what happens with any battery over time, your charge drops. Okay. That's why your flashlight eventually dies, your phone dies, etc. So, for us, it's like when you're 15, you get a cut in your hand, it heals in 2 or 3 days. When you're
Right.
50, you get the exact same cut and it heals in 2 or 3 weeks.
Weeks. Yeah. Yeah. I've
When
been
you're
there.
70, you get the same cut and it heals in 2 or 3 months. Okay. And so, I mean, that's what happens. So what we're trying to do is we're raising the amplitude of every atom in your body, therefore every molecule, therefore every part of a cell and every cell. And so what it relates to is raising the intracellular voltage of every cell in your body. Whole mental thing is like people ask us, why do we call it energetic fitness systems? Okay. Well, you've got physical fitness, you got mental fitness, and you got energetic fitness, and they all work together. So, example, we had a woman who was actually a PhD. She has extreme depression, extreme to the point to where, as she told me later, she would contemplate suicide 4 to 6 times every day, 7 days a week. Okay. And the only reason she hadn't killed herself was because her husband has post-polio syndrome, and she was the only one that could take care of him. So, okay, fine. She started using it. She got it took it to her home for her husband. And within a week, he went from being limited to the hospital bed down in their living room and either on hand crutches or in a wheelchair to drop in the wheelchair, drop in the hand crutches. They sent back the medical bed, and he was back upstairs sleeping in his own bed. Now, it took me a little bit to convince her to use it. She says, "No, it's for him. I don't want to use it up. You can't use this up. This is not a consumable product." And so I finally got her to use it, and within couple 2 or 3 sessions, her contemplation of suicide multiple times a day went to like maybe once a week, then to once a month, and then like months would go by without her even thinking about it. So um, we've had people with everything from just depression, anxiety to um, bipolar. Bipolar is like a real interesting one. That's when we gotta talk through, but it does work. So, I mean, any of that, it would not only help the physical aspect, but also the mental and emotional aspect of that whole process you're talking about.
So, have you looked into to chiropractor offices and alternative health places to put a unit in, and then the masses get to use it through whatever reason?
Yeah, actually, we have. It's funny because I had approached um, several chiropractors, and I was explaining to them what it did, how it helped, that kind of thing. And what was interesting was the chiropractors themselves were seriously stoked. They were really, really interested, really want to put these in their office. Then they talked to their wives. Okay. Their wives control the purse strings, and they shot it down. Not just, I mean, this isn't just one case. It happened multiple times because what they saw was a patient comes in, uses our equipment, and all of a sudden they feel so much better, they don't have to come back. Okay. And so that means we're going to lose money. And he says, and my argument was no, because your patients are going to be so much happier and they're going to feel so much better. You're going to end up bringing in more new patients, and you get more off of your first visit. So I mean, you'll actually make more money. And it was like they wouldn't look beyond the fact that they would lose clientele because the clients were not needing to come back for the chiropractic appointment. And it was crazy. And so what we're trying to do is actually we're hoping to go to an event in Boulder in October. And there's going to be, alternative health care professionals there. There's going to be, it's called Boulder Wellness Week, and it should be awesome. And I mean, everything from physical therapists, sports therapists, alternative medical, it's all going to be there. So
Well, that was my
that's
next
what,
question when it comes to, I mean, chiropractor is my first stop for this, but then when it comes to physical therapists, so just a little bit of back history about me in the last 3 years. I'm as you know, and many of my listeners know that I'm a full-time paramedic, and I was in the back of a truck in July 1st of 2021. Um, Fell in the back of my truck and went down into the stairwell and busted up both shoulders. So I had to have reconstructive surgery on both shoulders 1 year after another, right? So 2021, I had my first one, mind you, July. I didn't have surgery until November, but that was in the middle of COVID. So many things got postponed. And then my second surgery for my right shoulder, which was actually more affected than my left shoulder. That was the first shoulder that took the brunt. Plus, it had a previous surgery on it. So of course, insurances didn't approve it at the beginning because, oh, well, there's previous damage with that shoulder. This fall didn't cause that damage. I'm like, no, it did because it felt just fine prior, and prior to that fall, it felt just fine. So what happened was here I'm now working in physical therapy after my 4 to 6 weeks worth of being in a sling, and I'm working with a guy. My second shoulder surgery, I worked with the man who actually put the physical therapy program together for shoulders. And most people know that, and people attest to this, that most shoulders are anywhere between 6 to 8 months of recovery. But because of this man's introduction to a couple of alternative medicine things that have been proven but not federally approved of making things happen faster through those services that he provided for me, I came back in 4 months. I was back on the truck in 4 months from a 6 to 8 month process that was supposed to be healing.
wow.
I was back in 4 months, lifting patients and doing everything I can, swinging a hammer, everything, right, on my other job. So 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 of course chiropractic is a huge factor, but then when it comes to physical therapists that have finally, like this gentleman that was my physical therapist the second go around for my second shoulder, he had split off from the mainstream because not only reasons of lack of compensation for his services, when they told him that, you know what, the only way you can make more money is if you add more people to your schedule at the same time, where he wants to give individualized services and
Right.
charge blank amount of money per patient. He finally was like, you know what, that's not the way I roll. And he left and he started his own practice. Now, mind you, it took a while for it to get built up, but now he's got a private practice of physical therapy that is treating people and getting people back faster because of his alternative ways that have been proven through sport, through medical, through whatever reasons that he has found, that he has implemented these procedures to help you get back faster. And and it's great. So when it comes to physical therapists, like what is the direction of physical therapy that you're approaching as a whole?
Well, okay, so you brought that up. I'll go to sports real quick. And um, I had a kid. I call him a kid. He was 21 years old at the time, and he was a soccer player, really high-end soccer player. Actually, Seattle Sounders had offered him a walk-on position to play, and he had gotten hurt. He had pulled his hamstring, um, and so he had actually called and said, "Yeah, I got a hamstring pull. I'm not going to be able to see you next week." And it's like, okay. And he was seeing it for something completely different than our unit. And so he calls me up on Sunday and he says, I said, "How you doing?" He goes, "Not good." He says, "Went in and they did an MRI on me, and because they thought it was torn, and it wasn't torn, but it was the worst hamstring pull they'd seen in like forever. And they told me I'm on crutches for at least 2 weeks. I'm 6 to 8 weeks out before I can even start working out again. So I don't know when I'd be able to play. Does that thing you guys make actually work?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Can I come in and try it?" I said, "See you tomorrow." And so he came and saw us Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Um, and you know, there's a technique that we teach too. We call it focus session that we use, and he charged. And anyway, um, and it's like the first day he came, he's in crutches, and I says, "Keep using the crutches. If you feel better, keep using the crutches." So when he showed up on Tuesday, he wasn't no crutches. Of course, he's 21 years old and stupid. Um, by Thursday, he's like, I can tell this is really, really doing well. And what he didn't tell me was that weekend. So less than a week after getting injured, because he got hurt on no, I guess, yeah, no, it was 1 week exactly. Um, he played the full 90 minutes of 7 games over a 3-day period. And he said the last 10 minutes of the last match, he could feel it starting to tighten up a little bit. So he came back and saw us on Monday and then bought his own unit. So this was not one of the $20,000 units. It's one of our older units, but that's the way it works. We've seen that, so many times. We had a kid who was a pitcher in college, and his fastball is like 80, maybe 85 miles an hour. And it was he's in a 2-year college. He wanted to go to a 4-year college, and there's no way you're going to get on as a right-handed pitcher at 85 miles an hour. We worked with him for 2 weeks. I think we worked with him probably 5 times total. And he went out at what they call the NWAC All-Star. It's kind of a regional all-star game. They played 2 games, and he was the last pitcher of the last game. And he comes in, everybody had already seen him before, had all their scouting reports. They put away all their gear and stuff. First pitch comes in, and all you hear is this loud smack. And everybody kind of flipped their head around, all these coaches and scouts. And second pitch comes in, smack. They're all diving for their radar guns. And, he was throwing 90-91, consistent. And first inning he pitched 9 pitches, 3 batters, strikeout, done. The next inning everybody pitched 2 innings. The next one had to pitch 10 pitches to get 3 outs. One guy got a tip off it and went right off the face mask of the umpire. Almost knocked out the umpire. And so at the end of that, he's coming off. huge smile on his face, pointing at me like, and you know, pretty excited. And this guy standing next to me says, "Is this your son?" And I says, "No, no, no. I've just been working with him." And he goes, "Well, I think I'm about to make his day." And what he was the head baseball coach for Washington State University, offered him a free ride scholarship for 2 years and everything paid. And he now he's a teacher. You know, got his teaching degree, and that's what he really wanted to do. Baseball is the way to pay for it. So you're muted. Well,
Yeah,
there you go.
that is really cool. That is really cool. So
So I've talked to a couple of trainers and therapists, and to get a kid from 85 to 91 would be like
consistently, yeah.
at least a year, 6 months, probably a year worth of work. And the only throwing he did during that 1 week period or 2 week period was what they call a soft toss and long toss. That's it. And it did not pitch a ball once until he got out there on the mound.
Wow.
And so, I mean, he was almost as surprised as I was when that first
Well,
pitch
yeah.
came in,
Right,
you know.
right. Wow, that's
So
amazing.
yeah. So yeah, for physical therapy, yeah,
That's cool.
I mean, and I can go on and on.
Oh, yeah, yeah, I'm sure you can. So, with all this talk about electricity and voltage and amperage, so tell me more about, because I can interpret cardiology. I can look at an EKG and say, hey, you're having a STEMI, which is a an elevation in where you have a blockage in your heart, and I see that electrical feedback, and I know how to read that because I've been trained how to do that. So when it comes to people going onto your device, and this may, I don't, you've probably been asked this question before, as many podcasts you've been on, but like, is there anything that slips them into a AFib or VFib? Like, does this device send them into some sort of electrical problem inside of their heart? Like, has there
Yeah,
been any incidences whatsoever?
yeah, no. Actually, I'll take it one step further.
Okay.
We had a gentleman, a friend of ours, who ended up having a pacemaker implanted.
Oh,
His
that was going to be another question. It's like,
yeah,
what does this do with pacemakers? Because we know
yeah,
that that's an electrical pulse that basically makes the heart beat.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So um his problem was his heart would go so slow and
Slow.
he
Yeah.
would just pass
Yeah.
out.
Bradycardia. Yeah.
Yeah. And so and the way they found out is he and his wife were in Las Vegas for a conference, and he's driving down the road and just all of a sudden like
Boom. Yeah.
slumps over and goes off the side of the road.
Oh.
Anyway, fortunately nothing major happened. But um so he wanted to continue to use his EFS. So um, he made an appointment with the cardiology, um, and we went in, and they took. Actually, went back to the cardiology tech room where they do, check your pacemakers and everything else. Went into a room. They did a before test. Everything is cool. Everything is good. And then we set up our unit, and he charged for 20 minutes, and nothing happened. He's fine. He charged. He says, This feels good," because he hadn't been able to do it since he had the surgery. And so he gets all done, and then the tech comes back in, and they can monitor, I guess, everything like for the previous 6 months. And so they were able to go back and look at the previous 20 minutes.
Oh, because of his pacemaker, it has a memory that
Yeah,
captures. Yeah, that makes sense. So
yeah,
it remembers everything that patient went through. This, especially if it's a defibrillating pacemaker, that actually will shock you if your heart goes into the wrong rhythm. So it makes sense that those pacemakers can have a memory. So go ahead. Sorry.
yeah. But no, fine. And so what happened was the guy looked at it, and he goes, you see his head kind of cocked to the side, and he goes, "This
Like
is
a
weird."
dog.
Yeah, kind of like, "Whoa." And what it was, he showed it to us. It just looked like pure static for 20 minutes. But what happened was it depleted the battery of the pacemaker by 10%.
Mm.
So it was working so hard. I mean, all it was doing is monitoring this thing, but it depleted the battery. And so it's like, as even someone with a pacemaker, we say if you got an implanted electrical device, no, you can't use it.
Okay.
But
So
if
implanted pacemakers, no,
yeah,
because
but
it takes
here's
the
the thing.
battery down 10%. Not that it hurts you. It just reduces the battery by like 10% out of
But it's like, in no time, then you got to go back in, have surgery to replace the battery.
replace the
So
battery, right?
what they did was they gave him a magnetic ring. It's about yay big, and
Yeah,
they
yeah.
placed it
They
right
shut it
over the
off. Yeah, they
pacemaker,
shut it off.
shuts
Yeah.
it off, and he could charge.
Yep. Yep.
The only problem was you either tape it on or you kind of got to lay back, and it was,
Yeah, for
I don't know.
whatever the pacemaker's doing. Yeah, that's
But
whew, that scares me. I mean, I have to shut off pacemakers, on my medic once in a while for whatever reason medically. In our protocol, we have like one or two spots where we actually take that magnet and shut off the pacemaker if it's misfiring or whatever. But yeah, that's still then you're still on high alert to the fact that you may be doing compressions next. So I wouldn't want to be doing that.
yeah,
But yeah,
and that's
so
why we just tell people no.
no, yeah, that's good to know. So,
But
but
has it
no
ever triggered?
incidences on, yeah, with
No,
no other than a pacemaker, you haven't had any incidences where people go into an a
no.
fibrillation or defibrillation or any type of syncope episodes or passing out or anything like that.
Well, understand, we've been doing this for a fairly short period of time. We've only been doing this for 25 years. And so you got a limited number of
Yeah.
people you work with. I don't know how many thousands, but um, yeah,
Well,
no,
heck,
we've
the
never,
medical field puts out studies on 3,000 people. So come on,
yeah,
the FDA approves stuff on not tens of thousands of people. We know that. So so for the FDA to be like, well, you don't have enough numbers, that's bullcrap. Because if you have over 3,000 people, there's 3,000 subjects that went into the PTSD PTSI study, and it's been proven that PTSI diagnosis saves lives more than a diagnosis of PTSD. And if anybody out there understand these letters that I'm saying, post-traumatic stress disorder kills more people than post-traumatic stress injury, just in the diagnosis alone. Because an injury you heal from. A
yeah,
disorder, you have a mental block of am I ever going to feel better? And you end up doing stupid shit to yourself or your family or whatever because of the D-diagnosis. There's actually a physician on one of my podcasts that came on. He's in the middle of trying to change the name from from PTSD to PTSI, and he has proof with only about 300 people or 3,000 people, and but it's still proof. It's exponentially different of the lives that are saved with PTSI diagnosis compared to PTSD. So I know that's a little sidebar when it comes to the FDA and all their crap that they deal with, and something alternative like this that is physically and emotionally and visually showing differences in people, why they aren't sinking their teeth into this. And it's all big pharma, in my opinion, but I digress.
yep.
Crickets. I'll put cricket noises in there.
Oh, yeah, yep.
So
I
yeah, so you and I can talk for hours. I know we can, but I want to wrap this up for the podcast at least, and then we can take this offline again and have many more conversations, of course. And of course, I'm going to have you on my other podcast to talk about specifically what this does on the mental health side of things. So, and that's another place where I really sink my heart into is the mental health of the first responders. So that's going to be a whole nother conversation, not just physical repair, but mental health. And we'll go into that another time. But for now, I want to thank you so much for coming on and talking to us about this. And once again, tune in to the Ignition Path podcast and share with your friends, like, subscribe. And if anything you've heard during this podcast is something that resonates with you or anybody else you think needs to hear this, you know what? Go ahead and hit that share button and give that to them. So Justin, thanks so much for coming on the Ignition Path podcast, and I appreciate your time and all of your information. Take care.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to Ignition Path, fueling the entrepreneurial fire.